So this is a short video on the etiquette of animation dailies, and I've called it 10 rules to live by. It's approximately 10 rules for how to cope with animation dailies and how to be in animation dailies. And this is something that's tricky for all animators when they first start out. When you first start working, in particular on any kind of group project, whether you're working with other students at a university or you're collaborating in a studio environment, the problems are much the same. So I'm just going to go through these rules. Now, how often are animation dailies? Animation dailies are usually daily. Clues in the name, and normally at an animation studio, certainly traditionally, you'd be in a big screening theatre like the one on the right, and everyone would get in at around 9 a.m. and you're scrambling for your cup of coffee, or maybe it's at 9:30 a.m. and you sit there and you get all the notes for the shots that you're working on cut into the edit, and you'll be expected to be, you'll be called upon. And you'll be expected to speak up and talk about your shot, and that will happen pretty much every single day. That's the usual format. So rule number one is speak up. Don't sit quietly. And this is particularly one of the challenges of working remotely, is folks often sit at home and they've got their camera turned off and they've got their microphone turned off, and they're expecting it to be a completely passive experience where they just get these notes and don't say anything. But you really do need to speak up, just like you would in a theatre. When your shot comes up, make a noise, say, hey, my name's Joe, I'm here, and then explain what you're presenting it for, because don't assume that anybody knows. So, is it your first pass? Is it a work in progress? Work in progress is a great thing to call anything because it covers a multitude of sins. Are you looking for final approval? And what haven't you done? It's always good to say what haven't you done. If it's a two-shot and you've only done one character, don't wait for the director to say, hey, where's the other character? Just say, well, I haven't done it yet. I'm just showing it for this one character. Although usually if you're doing a two-shot, you would want to block both characters in. It would be unwise not to. And when you get notes, acknowledge the note. Don't just sit there quietly and silently. The director says, I want it blue, not green. You go, great, let's make it blue or green. Or if you don't understand why it should be blue, you can always say, well, I thought we agreed it was green, or whatever. But don't just sit there quietly and say nothing. Be clear, learn the language of screen. People often will say, oh, the shot over there on the right. But you don't know if you mean the character's right or screen right. So what you want to do is say screen right, which is on the right-hand side of the screen, or screen left, which is on the second on the left-hand side of the screen. So screen right and screen left, not right and left. And really try and avoid, it requires a bit of mental discipline, but really try and avoid saying this shot or that shot, because you know what you're talking about, but nobody else does. So refer whenever you can to shot numbers, which hopefully will be on the screen in the edit. But if they're not, you can always refer to, say, the extreme close-up or the mid-shot or the wide shot or the two-shot or whatever. Okay, so moving on, rule 2, take notes. This is really super important, and I learned this the hard way, that you're sitting in animation dailies and the director gives you notes, and then the producer says something, and the lead animator says something, and you don't write it down, and you think you're going to remember it, and you walk out, and you get back to your desk and you have a cup of coffee and you chat to your friend, you've got no idea what the notes were. And then you think, oh, I know, the production assistant will tell me. And you get the notes from them and they've just written down a whole bunch of gobbledygook, none of which makes any sense at all. So what you want to do is take a little pad, and actually I've got a legal pad here in the picture, but better yet is get yourself a little notebook, something you can fit in a jacket pocket or something like that. And then just make lists and number the notes 1 to 10 or however many notes you've got. And just write it all down, and then once you get back to your desk, kind of enlarge on it a bit, sort of clarify the notes so that you remember what it was. And then the next dailies, the next time you turn up, you don't just show your shot. Your shot turns up in dailies, and you go, hey, my name's Jim, and by the way, last week the note was A, B, and C, and so I've fixed A, B, and C. Or, last week you wanted the tail, a bit more overlap on the tail, and I've done that, but I still haven't done the bit about the, the blink, or whatever. Because that way you're really helping the director, whoever's looking at your shot, because they've got a lot of stuff to do, right? They've got a lot of stuff to remember. And that way you're reminding them of the notes that they gave last time, and you're also sending them the very, very clear and important message that you took on board that note, you listened it, and you actioned it. And that way, you send the message that you're paying attention and you're on it. Rule number 3: ask questions. If you don't understand what's going on, ask for clarification. Don't ask twice. Yeah, I mean, this is a picture of Rob Minkoff, the co-director of Lion King, which I'll come to in a minute. But you can always ask, if you don't understand the question or the note, or if there's a reason why the note can't be executed in the way the director wants, don't be shy to say so. It's much better to have that conversation and ask those questions than to come back next time with the same problems. Now, the reason I've got a picture of Rob Minkoff up there is that my rule number 4 is be the Rhino. In other words, develop a thick hide and learn to take criticism positively. Remember, you mustn't take this stuff personally. Everybody is there in dailies to help you do the best shot you possibly can. And the reason I've got the picture of Rob is because I remember on Lion King, I was doing this shot here where Scar is padding towards the camera, and Rob gave me a note, and I'd had a lot of notes on this shot because it was a very, very difficult shot. It was hard to get right, and I was sort of at the kind of limits of my ability at that time. And I remember getting quite frustrated and quite sort of annoyed and possibly quite difficult. And looking back on it, I would have done that differently. I would have handled that differently because they were working on a massive feature film, and if the animator needs to get something right, and if you need to make changes, then you've just got to do it. So stay cool, be patient, and don't take criticism personally. It's not personally. They just want the film to be the best and most amazing film it can be. And by the way, I was really proud of how that shot came out in the end, so it was all worth it. Rule number 5: add a frame counter. This is really important. When you send a play blast to dailies, just pop the frame counter on your screen. There's a little. This just shows you how to do it. In Maya, you go display, heads up display, current frame. Just pop that on there, and that way, when your play blast is created, you've got a frame counter. And that means that in dailies, you can refer to a specific frame. You can say frame 49, frame 59, or whatever, and you're not saying over there, or this bit, or that bit, or all the rest of the unclear stuff that people get frustrated by. Okay, so you've got your changes, you've got your notes, go back to your desk and now make those changes. Now you've taken notes, right? You've got a list of notes and number them, and then apply the notes one by one. You don't necessarily need to start with note number 1. I always make the easy changes first. If you've got 5 notes to execute and 4 of them are easy, do those first, because you're going to find once you've done that maybe the other note, the difficult one, melts away or is much easier to apply. Leave the hard changes till last. And don't make all the changes at once. So what you do is you apply the notes, you change your animation, test it, play blast it. Does it look better? Does it look worse? If it looks better, save it, move on to the next change. Change your work, test it. Does it look better? Excellent. Save it, then move on to the next one. But don't do it all at once, because you'll find if you try and make all the changes at once, then often you get in a muddle and you've got to go back to the beginning and start over again. So do it incrementally. And rule number 7, don't start over. Do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Lots of people, they go into dailies, they get notes, the director wanted changes, and they just start the scene from scratch. Don't do that, because you've put a lot of work into getting to where you were. So just make the changes to it, but don't start over. Resist the temptation to chuck everything away and start again with a blank canvas. Rule number 8, be a problem solver. Everybody likes a problem solver. Everyone likes somebody who comes to dailies and says, there was a problem here, but I've solved it in this way. This is taken from the animated survival kit. And this was a scene on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where Bob Hoskins was unusually, for Bob Hoskins, because he's a brilliant actor and he did an amazing job on that film, but unusually in this scene he was looking too high. He was looking too high up. So he's looking horizontally. The rabbit is supposed to be here, but in fact the rabbit can't be up there because the rabbit is not nearly as tall as Bob Hoskins. So now this shot was given to Simon Wells, who was actually the animator I worked for on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and this was Simon's solution. So what he did was he just put the rabbit up on top of his toes so that the two of them could make eye contact together. There was nothing in the shot that demanded that the rabbit be up on his toes, quite the opposite. But it was a visual solution to a problem, and everybody loved Simon for that. And you know, he went on to have a great, terrific career, in part as a result of this kind of can-do attitude. So be a problem solver, help everyone out, and see if you can find solutions to the problems. And there are always problems with every shot, because these things never run smoothly, or rarely anyway. Rule number 9, be positive. And this is, you know, it's easy to get negative in dailies. People are asking for changes, you're running out of time, stuff can't be done. Try and maintain a positive outlook all the time. You know, morale on a feature film is very, very important, or on any project. If the team lacks morale, it's very, very hard for stuff to get stuff done. Everybody wants you to do your best work, and you want to encourage everybody else to do their best work as well. So try not to get frustrated. If you do get frustrated, try not to show it. Try and be positive and know that everyone is trying to help you get to the finish line. So just a few other thoughts before we close. But just know that, you know, when you get notes, particularly if you're getting notes from someone who isn't that familiar with the animation process, they may not necessarily be able to help you solve the problems directly. So in that case, you've got to go to someone else and get help from one of your team members, and see if somebody else who is more experienced than you can help you solve the problem that the director's asking for. And if you get stuck in a feedback loop, which does happen, sometimes it's just getting kicked back over and over again. Again, you've just got to find someone you trust, find someone really good who can help you out, send someone your Maya file, you know, do whatever it takes to get a fresh pair of eyes on the problem. And there's absolutely no shame in asking for help. Quite the opposite, in fact, because it's all about getting stuff done. One other thought, sometimes you're going to have a number of different notes from different directors. That can be very, very frustrating. There might be 2 directors or even 3 directors on a film. And then you might be getting notes from the animation supervisor, from the producer, from the visual effects supervisor. There are all kinds of people are going to give you notes. And the bigger the budget, the higher the risk, the more common this is. And that is just one of those things that you've got to get used to. And again, try not to get frustrated, but understand that, you know, people will respond to problems that they see in a shot and are not always necessarily going to give you the same solution. But you've got to find a way of getting around that and finding the solution to it. And somehow or other, hold on to the original idea that you had at the beginning of the shot. Be confident in your own choices, in what you've done, and hold on to that original creative idea. So the secret to success: show your work. You know, when you show your shot for the first time, be confident that what you're doing makes sense. Make a positive statement. Be certain that it works, and try and build that confidence with the director. The more the director has confidence in you, the more likely your shots are to get approved, because they'll start to feel that you're someone who can be trusted and relied upon. One thing that they used to talk about at Sony was the 15-minute rule. That's where I first learned that. You've got 15 minutes to solve something by yourself. If you can't figure it out, ask someone to help. And that's the same, you know, just the same with remote working as it is in a studio. If you're getting stuck, ask for help. Don't be shy to ask for help. So show your work early, make it clear, get feedback, try not to take it personally. Take notes, really, really important. Don't be shy to speak up, ask for help, ask for clarification. And always remember, you can ask for help from other people on your team.